Malo Lele, and welcome everyone to another podcast here on the Polynesian Eyes podcast. We're really excited today. Got Tua Fale here from the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. We have Mr. Aotearoa, as always, joining us from New Zealand. And we're excited today for a guest to join us in our digital kava session here, Mr. Ray Keller, coming from Utah. Go ahead and do a quick intro, Ray, and just kind of give a quick summary, and we'll jump into a kava session discussion, man.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. My name is Raymond Andrew Keller III. I got my dad was the second, and then my grandfather was the first. I'm just a half Tongan, half Scottish, father of 5, his, hers, and ours. So I had a son, and then my wife had a couple kids, and then we had a couple together. So we have 5 kids, and just moved back to Utah from Austin, Texas.
Oh, man, we love Texas. We love Texas. My kids still have a lot of fond memories. I can't believe we were so close to each other as we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to the Buc-ee's? And which one? Did you go to the one at New Braunfels or the other one that's a little more east towards Bastrop? Did you ever go to Buc-ee's?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's coming to Springville, Texas.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes, we saw that the other week. My kids were like super excited. They're like, whenever we drive to Utah, that's going to be an automatic stop.
Yeah.
Buc-ee's. What were your favorite things about Texas?
Oh man, I love the weather initially because I play soccer for fun. So, I'm 48 years old, but I still like to go, just kick the ball on the pitch. So in Texas you can play year round, because they get the occasional like ice storm you'll see on the news, but for the most part, winters are super short. And so, as you know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
No, sorry about that. Once you said Texas, there's a lot of memories. But yeah, anything else you want to share, Ray, about your background or anything?
Oh man, there's a lot of things I'm passionate about. So when I reached out to you guys and asked you if I can come join you on the show, I kind of gave you a list of different things. But life insurance is my profession, so pretty passionate about that at the moment. That's the thing that I'm really, and it's really cool because I named my agency Independent Island, all based on my ethnicity, both on the Scottish Irish side.
Yeah, because those are islands as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it kind of covered both, and so it's that's how I named it. And I started it out in Spring City, down by Snow College.
Oh.
So I was living on a 9-acre lot out there with the deer and the elk in Spring City.
Whoa.
That little cul-de-sac. Yeah.
Dude, that's a dream of mine to have some acreage like that, man. What made you leave?
Yeah, no, it's just we just wanted to kind of get away from the snow. I think was really the big thing, and just kind of get away from family for a little bit. To be honest, kind of create some space,
create your own independent island for some growth.
Nice plug.
Yeah. So kind of, how did you get into life insurance? Kind of like. Because I know you went to BYU, right? We've crossed paths a little bit there. Yeah. How did you start getting into life insurance?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. So there's kind of a story before the story. So maybe we'll go back. Maybe we'll go back a little bit. Yeah. So we were living in Provo. My wife and we bought a house in South Provo, kind of by the campus, and I was a pretty successful telesales guy for my friend's company. A SaaS company. So we'd sell these point of sale systems that were all in the cloud and, inventory tracking, all that kind of stuff. But I was pretty successful. I was their top sales guy. And so I was able to just basically convince my boss that I had the skill set to be able to not show up in the office, but be able to go out and maybe work remotely. So
and deliver and still deliver
results, the same results, maybe even better. You never know. So so basically, and then I had this run in with Google Fiber where I was facing 10 years in prison. I kind of say that. I kind of share that
getting me hot real fast.
Yeah, that's a crazy story right there. So, so I basically I became very passionate. When I have this personality where when I learn something new that resonates with me to be true, then I'm guns blazing.
All in.
Yeah, all in. So whether it's life insurance, whether it's being a dad, whether it's playing soccer or doing sports, athletics, whatever it is, I'm always all in. So anyway, I just was super passionate about the Constitution at this point in my life, the U.S. Constitution.
Okay.
And I was digging in and like peeling away all the layers and going back to this first principle theory of like words. So I've got stacks of dictionaries in my house, just old school Webster dictionaries. So I was just really digging into the Constitution at this point in my life. And one of the things is the Second Amendment, right? It's gun rights. So.
Oh yeah. When Google was digging through your backyard and you came out with your Second Amendment, or what?
Oh man, you pretty much nailed it. Hit it on the head. But so these Google Fiber guys, they were offering this free service, right? Remember that? We were the first city, Provo, and
it got for the pilot program.
Pilot program. Yeah, Provo was one of the first cities to adopt it. And so I had because I was so and I still believe in the Constitution, but at this time I was very much like pro liberty and I still am, but like I said, in a much bigger way at this point in my life.
Impassioned with the idea, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. So the Google Fiber guys would come by and they need to be in my yard to be able to install the internet for the block because there was a power line in my backyard. And so I would just basically tell them repeatedly, just at my front door, like, you're not welcome on my property. It's not personal. Nothing is free. Like, I'd rather pay for my service. And so I'm going to buy it from Comcast rather than get the free whatever trillion gigabytes, whatever it was. Yeah. So they just kept coming back and pressing that they need to do it and that they had easement rights and things like this. And so one day my wife, she was at home pregnant with our youngest, with my second to youngest daughter. And I was at work selling for that company, that point of sale company in Springville. And these guys came over to the house in just a unmarked truck with just some colored vests. And said they were with Google, and they told my wife, they just went on the property. My wife went out there and said, "What are you doing here?" "Oh, we're with Google." She said, "Do you have any ID?" They said, "No, F off."
Wow.
They're very belligerent with. And my wife is like very innocent, doesn't use swear words. So she called me, and so I come back, and the long story short is I grabbed my shotgun, and I showed my wife and kids before I went out that it was empty. That I'm not shooting anyone today, but
I want to make a point.
I want to make a point. Yeah. So anyway, long story short is I went out, then they eventually got off my property and the police came, they called the police and they arrested me and took me to jail. And they escorted them back onto my property as I was being driven away. And so, I went to a long battle, and like I said, I was pretty impassioned. I was told by, I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy named Morgan Philpott. Have you ever heard of that guy?
Oh, is that the guy who did he run for governor? And he's the guy. Is he the guy that had like the gliding?
No,
gliding. No,
he could have. He might have been. He's a big constitutionalist at that point in time, and he was running against Governor Herbert, who was the governor at the time. So he was a big lawyer, and after my case, he eventually went on to work with the Bundys. You might have heard of those guys. The Oregon standoff.
Oh yeah, where the one guy got shot.
Yeah,
with the FBI and stuff.
Finicum was the guy who got killed. Yeah. So anyway, I found this attorney, Morgan Philpott, and we worked together for a little bit. But he eventually started pressing me to take the plea, to take a couple of years in prison. Rather than 10.
Just take a deal.
Take the deal. Yeah. So I basically fired him, and I found this. It's really funny. I found this liberal attorney who was a Hillary Clinton, but
was on board with what you wanted to do.
Yeah. What he saw, he heard my story, and he believed in me, and he said, "Yeah, I get it. You don't want to take the plea. We'll fight. And so, I paid him. We went to court. I did a jury trial for 3 days. But then the jury came back about 1 or 2 in the morning, and just not guilty on everything.
Wow. What was that like, man? That must have been stressful, dude.
Oh, man. Yeah. Big time. Big money. Yeah. Marriage was rough. Money was tight, and I was paying. I did a little GoFundMe, so a few people threw few bucks my way. But super stressful. But that's kind of part of that story of Independent Island Life Insurance, because I was so heartbroken because I was born in Provo, and this was home for me. And so to be treated like that when I never shot anyone, I never even pointed the gun. I was exercising a right that I thought I lived in America. I was like, I thought I had my back. And so it turned out that I was the one that was transported to prison, and that whole thing is horrible. Like getting naked in front of men and then checking your body. I mean, it's just very humiliating. You went
through that whole thing, so you were incarcerated or whatever you want to call it, in custody during that whole thing.
Yep.
Wow. So I can see how that your perception of the world is changed dramatically.
Oh yeah, it changed big time. But it only takes someone like me, and it just kind of emboldens me. It's not like I'm going to
because those kind of things will either destroy you or make you stronger.
Right. Yep. So I was heartbroken is kind of the story, but so I had to get out of Provo, and so that's where I took went to my boss, said, I'm top sales guy. I'm selling over the phone. No one's seeing me anyway. I can do that from a home office
anywhere.
So that's where I head out to Spring City, down south, and we get a place, and and there's a lot of people down there, like Joel Skousen. I don't know if you heard of him.
Mm-mm.
He's a big prepper. He wrote a book called if you just look up Joel Skousen anything, you would see kind of who he is. He's a big.
I'm gonna look it up. Let me know if there's anything you ever want to pull up in the middle of this. We can pull up a screen.
Oh, cool.
I'm gonna look it up. Joel Skousen.
Yeah,
keep going. Sorry, I'm just gonna search him up.
Yeah. So I get out to Spring City, and we have this property, and Joel Skousen's out there, and he's bringing out all these preppers that he's bought this land, and he's selling all these homes to them, and and it's a different mentality out there. You can imagine in the sticks when it comes to Second Amendment and things like that. It's very, very different. So I felt really at home there.
Okay.
And there's just kind of a big group of people there that are super passionate about the Constitution. Joel Skousen probably being the biggest as far as reputation is concerned. There he is. Yep, he was my neighbor. I was his home teacher.
You know what? I've seen this guy on another podcaster interviews him a lot. When this whole thing with. Whenever there's like a big thing with the government, and I've seen this guy. I've seen him on podcasts before.
Yeah.
So he's your neighbor, huh?
Yep, he was back at the time. Yep, we were good friends. So
okay, that's
yes. Cool. So I'm out there in Spring City, and then I'm still doing this gig for my sales job, and then it ended. The boss said that the rest of the employees were upset
about it.
Yeah, because I was not having to show up to work. I wasn't having to go to trade shows and travel. So they started complaining, and it just went up the chain, and they said you have to come back in. And by this time I'd already sold my home. I'm an hour and a half south.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at help wanted ads. I'm on, whatever Monster and the Utah Workforce Services. And I keep seeing these sales jobs for life insurance, but they're not phone sales. They're face-to-face.
Like door-to-door?
Door-to-door, yeah.
Okay.
Kitchen table battle. That's what they call it. You get on the kitchen table.
Is that what it's called? Because you go in and sell. Make the sale in the kitchen table.
Slide the paper across the table, kind of.
Deal or no deal. Come on. Okay.
So I see this, and then I just, in my mind just kind of gets to work, and I put together that I think I could sell this. I think I could sell life insurance over the phone. And so even though it wasn't really done at that time, it was all old school. And this is before COVID, right? This is like 2015, 2014. So basically I just married the two things. My history was phone sales and my success, and then this life insurance gig, and I just dig in and I start learning everything about it. And what I call now is kind of the inside baseball. So I really enjoy teaching people about life insurance now, not just, shoving something down their throat, but really kind of challenge the thoughts they may have had because they haven't thought about it too much, or they're Polynesian and this the kind of a first generation thing. They don't really have life insurance. So anyway, so that's where it all came about. I just learned the inside baseball, and I realized the light bulb went off that there's a lot of people that I know that have no idea about what I've just learned in kind of going down these rabbit holes about how it works, and how there's independent agents and there's captive agents. And that's, most people choose the captive route because it's hard. You got to hustle to be independent because you get no help. It's truly
so is the
independent.
captive route being like a franchise from like one of the bigger employee agents, and then the independent ones like you're doing? You're basically a startup within the industry.
Yeah. Captives would be like New York Life, or a big one in the poly community is Primerica. That's
that was kind of like blowing up when I was over there.
Right.
The Primerica. I think actually a good buddy. I wouldn't say a good buddy. We were friends. We hung out a little bit. Young, tall, big Samoan guy. Brigham. Not Brigham Young. It's Brigham, but I was like Young, but it's like his name's Brigham.
Oh, his first name's Brigham. Okay.
Yeah, his first. I was like Young. He's like, nah, it's Brigham. He and his wife, I think, are like regional.
Big dogs.
Regional. Yeah. They do very well. I'm gonna look it up on Facebook. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah, but they're Primerica. Like, I think I went to just to kind of sit in on one of their presentations.
Mm-hmm.
But okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm kind of talking fast, I think, but
no, you're good, man.
Yeah. So I just learned all this, the inside baseball. I learned about captive agents. I learned about independent, and I learned that in that process, I just learned that most agents, it's not that they don't have the courage to do it. It's just that it's really hard. And I can attest to that after now 10 years of doing it, almost going broke. And, when with that comes like divorce, potential, just marital problems. And
the stress goes up for everyone.
Yeah. Kids, everyone. So everyone's struggling. My mom was living with me at the time. And so that's another mouth to feed. And it's just like, so I just learned these two things, and so I just decided to take my my phone sales skills and just turn it into something that I never found anyone selling it over the phone successfully. They were all telling me, including that guy that does the he's big now. What's his name? Patrick Bet David.
That's who I was going to ask you. The PHP, because that's another guy I know. He was in the a big corporate insurance thing.
Yeah, and
then he ended up peeling off on his own, and
I
mean, he just sold his insurance agency for like $300 million or something.
Exactly.
A year or two ago.
Oh man, that's so So I worked with him for a little bit. I worked with him for a month.
Like face to face?
No, this was all over the phone.
But like one-on-one.
One-on-one. Yep, direct with him. Yep, it was
interesting.
Yeah,
he's a cool dude from what I can see.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Get through this, and then I want to come back and ask you about him. But yeah, continue the story.
So I mean, even he was so basically. I just ran into a lot of stumbling blocks in the beginning. Just a lot of people who, I think we were talking earlier before we started recording. Just the mentality. They just had a different mentality. Like anything new, it's not possible. I heard a lot of that in the beginning, but 10 years later, I'm here now, and now I'm helping hundreds of families. 99% are poly families, which I really love.
Yeah, finding your niche. That's yeah.
People like me. They look like me. They sound like me. We just really get along well. So yeah. Anyway, that's kind of the background. That's the long version.
That's fascinating, dude. and it's just crazy that I don't know about you, man, but when my own life experience and just listen to other people, the deeper the trough or the hole, the greater the rise it comes from. Man, I can't imagine what it would be like to be facing 10 years, man. Like that's impressive. But Masi, anything on your mind you want to ask? I have a couple of things that popped up in my head.
Wait, before I ask a question to Ray, Tua, I just want to make sure, the live, does that mean it's recording or are we on live?
It's recording.
It's recording. Okay,
If
I just want to make sure.
The internet is getting a free live.
Okay.
Yeah, it should just be a recording. Because it says record only, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, all right. No, all good. But Ray, do you think, when you had those people come onto your property, is it because maybe it's only because to me, I think it's more a Texas thing that have more rights, that's maybe they're more lenient, or it just wouldn't matter wherever you may be within Utah, or if you were in another state, that same scenario happened to you, that maybe you'll be given more of the benefit of the doubt? Or because I know Provo, I think Tua and I were born in Provo too, so Provo is special to us too. But I know Provo has for a little bit, I don't know, maybe it's better now, it had a reputation of just bad policing for a little while. Was that during that time? Is it because of that? And it was just
bad corruption over there for a little bit.
Or I don't know. That's just my kind of open question there. Do you think, is it because with some of the Provo bad policing, and then just Utah being maybe more not as, holding that, defending your property, kind of like compared to other states, more maybe Texas, what comes to my mind? Or do you think this scenario probably would have just happened maybe anywhere within any state? I don't know. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think my attorneys were saying that, how important it is in that jury selection process, just kind of the mentality of the people in Provo, and how he was very choosy, and I got to sit through the process. I learned a lot, like being in the legal system and getting that close to being put away is you learn a lot.
I'm not trying to put down how serious this was, right? But I just think that's funny. You're like, being so close to being put away. It's like, we're not talking about timeout here, guys. We're talking about 10 years in prison. So I'm not trying to downplay anything, but man,
no,
that's
not
crazy.
at all. Yeah, it is crazy. But I think I just think generally speaking, like Provo, if I were anywhere else, like Texas, for example, I think Texas probably would have been more lenient, just by the people that I got to know while I was in Texas for 4 years in the Austin area. There's a lot of liberal type. I even hate to use those type words, liberal and conservative, because I don't identify with either anymore. But I think in short, I think whenever you're closer to the city, I think that's generally speaking what I've learned is that the further you get into the middle of a city, or the more rural you get a much more favorable outcome when it comes to Second Amendments. Those that are in favor of it are more rural. When you get into the bigger cities, it's the opposite.
Yeah, and I've in my background, I'm somewhat familiar with that. Right now I build power lines in your backyard.
But
I'm assuming yours was more of a utility distribution pole, not a high voltage power line.
Correct.
Or was it a high voltage?
No. I think it was the previous one.
Yeah. So okay, good. So I'm in the high voltage space. So for this example, I'm not the bad guy. But the same principle exists. Like when you have a utility, they have a right of way, right?
Yep. Easement.
And in that right of way, they have an easement. And even though it's on your land, they can come. Like when we build those, sometimes it goes into condemnation, right? Where the utility will say, we've tried to negotiate with you on a price, can't agree on the price. Then they go the legal route and say, this is for the greater good.
For the greater good.
That's what it comes down to. Oh, this is important for the city. So I've been on projects in Southern Virginia, West Virginia, where I've pulled up to a gate on a cattle ranch, right?
Yep.
And a guy put it on some cardboard, wrote it in
Yeah,
Ken
marker or
is like
something.
marker.
Yeah.
He's like, I just want you to know I own 50 caliber rifle, and that if you enter here, you are at risk of being shot because you don't have the rights to access. And you're like, well, I gotta go in and gotta go to work, I guess. I don't know. So, but it does get pretty tense in some of those situations.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, depending on the person and how
Yeah,
where they're at, like where are they
exactly.
at? Yeah, what space are they in? Yeah,
So from what I can understand, Ray, I admire, number one, your tenacity, right?
Mm.
I think that is something that's very admirable, and that's something that comes, unfortunately, many times, or the only way I'm familiar with it is experience, right?
yeah, yep,
Tenacity comes from, there's a spirit, but spirit can be broken, but tenacity comes from, experience and knowing, hey, dude, the sky could fall, but I'll figure out a way, right?
yeah,
Just kind of like you said, your work says you can't work away from the space, and you're trying to find this thing. Even David, or Patrick Bet David's like, this is new, you can't do it, right? Whatever.
yep,
So that the tenacity to push through, I admire. My question is, from your perspective, because of the success you've had in sales, which is sounds like a key strength of yours. What makes a successful salesperson or entrepreneur? Because the biggest thing about entrepreneurship is sales. Yes, you got to build a good product. That's plus. But if you get a good product, but you can't sell it,
yeah,
that product's pretty useless, right? Like you have
yep,
to be able to make the deal, especially your first couple ones, right?
yep,
My little efforts in entrepreneurship, it's 0 to 1. I think Peter Thiel has that book, right? Where it's like 0 to 1. That's the most difficult, breaking inertia,
yeah,
right?
right,
That your first
spot
couple
on.
sales, what are, from your perspective, what makes a successful salesman?
Yeah, I think I think that's funny you asked that, because I haven't done a job interview. I'm just realizing now. I haven't done I haven't done a job interview in like 15, 12
Mm,
years.
Mm.
It just
great
all of a
place to
sudden
be.
felt like
Yeah.
no, I think with sales, I think for me, it's always been like I've rotated through so many sales jobs because of this one principle, which is I won't sell trash,
Mm,
So I think people pick up on that. I'm almost certain they do, whether they can articulate it or not. If they're like, every one of us has been like, my wife sells stuff all the time. She comes home, puts on a beautiful outfit, or makes a dinner, and we're all selling something. So I think those that are just that just truly like believe, I think that's the number one probably characteristic, that you really believe in what you're selling, and
yeah.
it comes
No,
across.
I can see that. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, because you have to be passionate. You have to come across as genuine,
Yeah.
right? And you have
Yep.
to tell the value. And if you're passionate about the product,
Yeah.
you have a way better chance of being successful,
Yep. Just like
right?
you, I seen your podcast, like Tua, like the way you are passionate about the stuff. I could tell, like anyone can tell.
Mm.
So it's like both of you guys, like we could tell you guys love what you do, and that salesmanship is just like shining right through. That's why people sub in or whatever. I don't know what your count is, but
Yeah.
I guarantee you that plays a massive part for you.
And I'm a big believer in that philosophy as well. We're always selling something, whether it's ideas,
Yep.
right? Whether it's an experience, whether it's whatever.
Yeah.
We're always selling something, and we're always trying to influence each other on ideas and ways to think,
Right.
right? Even if
Yep.
we're not directly doing it. So, but ooh, Samoa is up 12-0 against New Zealand.
Okay.
Oh, dang.
Who are
Samoa
you?
looks like
Who
I'm,
who are you guys
I'm hoping
rooting for?
Samoa wins. I'm hoping Samoa
Nice.
wins. I
Okay.
think
Well,
that would be a big.
I'm not too big to it, because it's more, this is more of the preparations for the World Cup next year. So this is a
Mm.
good indication where I'm just worried about hopefully we can get our MMT coach replaced before the World Cup. I knew it. I mean, that's what I wasn't surprised, because sorry, Ray, but like
Oh
before
no.
our last conversation, Tua was like more of like, kind of giving
I'm willing to
Christian
give
like
him
some
one
more
more
time,
shot.
giving him more shot. And I think since the second World Cup, I was just saying we need to replace him. He's kind of gone his time. I mean, championship teams don't keep the same coach after they had two tries to try to get to the final.
Yeah.
And to me, Samoa has these coaches that are nobodies. I had to look up his name. He's only an assistant coach,
Mm.
and even the coach before that took Samoa to the final. Tonga has
Nobody
never
knew
been
who
to the
they were.
final,
Yeah.
Right.
and supposedly this is supposed to be the best coach, and it's either he's coaching differently when he's in the NRL and other teams, and the Matema Tonga is like it's even just how the team just came out super flat. Just it's either they're just he's too. It's either he's not having the same accountability, he's holding the same players, and the players are just used to him, and it's more of like everyone's having a good time. That's what it seems like. That's
Right.
what it
Yeah.
seems like, and they're playing like that. So I don't know. We'll see. But that's my focus. Is hopefully we can get it. But the tricky thing is, you know, you notice they're not using the Matema Tonga. They're saying just Tonga 13s. So
Yeah.
there's some issues there, and it seems like Christian Wolf is banking all the money because all of that we don't even the whole Tonga board
Nobody
doesn't even
knows
know
where that's
where
going.
that money's going to.
Mm.
Two, they don't even know who the staff. And I don't know if you recently heard, but this I think Eli, is it
Katoa.
Takatoa? He's
Eddie
most
Katoa.
likely he's most likely played his last NRL kind of game because his injury was very significant. He had an
Mm.
emergency surgery
Brain
sucking the
bleed.
fluid out,
Ooh.
and that's probably because
He's
and we don't even know who's the staff of Christian Wolf, and that's probably a shortfall on his part. He No one really knows who gave the clear because he did not look well, and even if you're the coach and the medical guys tell you it's okay if they cleared him, you're the head coach. If he doesn't look right, you don't put the guy in there again until he's
Right.
almost having seizures. He would have kept playing if he didn't have seizures on the side of the on the sideline. So see now it's getting pretty bad, and this is kind of the issue I have with Christian Wolf. There's nobody above him to keep him on check. So it's
Mm.
starting to bleed to other areas, and Gatoa probably played his last game, and he probably won't play an NRL game again for a long time. And even when he does get back, I don't think he's going to be the same player. So that's just my
yeah.
thoughts there with the whole MMT stuff. And the sooner Christian Wolf can get replaced, the reputation he can save will be good. Because I mean, if he does make it to the does well, but I'm not having high expectation just because of law of the internal and just some of the outcomes he's kind of shown us. He's willing. He can win the one gamers like Australia and the Great Britain. I think England he won, but those are just one offs, and that's not at critical moments and high pressure games when it matters. So that's just my
Okay.
thoughts there. But
No,
side
I
note there.
actually no. That's an important point, and this is actually will kind of go towards something I wanted to get Ray's thoughts on because it seems like, and I don't know if you guys have seen this as well, but there's a trend with businesses and organizations where you have to transcend. You're either in right to kind of get to the next level, right? To be you can start a business and then it's like survival, survival, survival. But in order to get to flourishing, it has to go through a transformation. And
Mhm.
it sounds like the Matematonga are at a tipping point, right? Where they
Mm,
either have to make a decision to flourish or they're going to they peaked early and then they're just going to either
Peter out.
peter out and die off if something doesn't happen. That's the big risk they run. And I think that's kind of like what you're talking about, Masi, is that's the risk they have. If something
yeah,
doesn't change soon, then we've hit the ceiling. And then you have people like teams like Samoa that they saw the opportunity and they said, hey, we're going to leverage that and they're going to transcend it and ascend to greater things. Nope. I want to kind of walk us through, Ray, how you went through that, right? Because you said you dug in. Everybody's telling you you're doing it wrong or you
Yeah.
don't know what you're doing. This is not going to be successful. You're in a high pressure situation, and what was the transformation for you? besides getting your first couple sales, or what? Like, what was that
Mm.
like, and how do you transform beyond just the survival mode?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, and a lot of these things that I learned are just they're practical across everything. It's not just business, but I think the big turning point for me was realizing that I just needed some help. This is a big deal for me. Like, I try to teach my kids this, or I'll share it with people, is that, you probably all heard that saying, you don't know what you don't know,
Mm.
So it's just realizing that that's kind of how it goes. The saying that I heard somewhere was realizing that your best self is what got you to where you're at. So if you're having a horrible life and you're feeling depressed, it's important that you realize that's what I realized. Like, wherever I was, that was no one does anything but their best. No one has ever chosen the second best. If you think about it, like, all your decisions throughout the day,
Nobody likes to lose.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we all choose what our best option is. So if you acknowledge that internally, just say, Ray, every decision I chose up in my entire life up to this point was the decision I thought would serve me best. And if you really truly absorb that and internalize that, then you must realize that you have to go outside yourself to be able to, like you said, transcend. So, I realized that I needed help. And when I started throwing money around, honestly, it's going to make me sound like Scrooge McDuck or something. I don't have money to throw around, but I realized that my best self got me to where I was, and I wasn't happy with it. And I was stuck, and I needed some help. And so I just started, throwing money around, basically, to different people, whether it be a therapist personally, for me personally, or for my relationship with my wife, or if it was a professional coaches, how to market, whatever it was. I had to go beyond myself. I had to acknowledge that I was as far as I was going to go. I had to transcend. Yeah. So that was the big thing I learned as far as transcending.
Wow.
Yeah.
Life insurance. What's the biggest myths that our Polynesian people have about life insurance, and the biggest golden nuggets that you give or educate our people on, to be like, get a good understanding of what life insurance is and isn't?
Yeah. So just a lot of people don't realize that life insurance, the number one factor before they'll even look at any person, man, woman, or child, is we kind of talked about this earlier, was weight, is your BMI. So,
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
just tie a bunch of helium balloons to you right before get on the scale, you'll be golden.
I told Tua stop eating the Lu Shippy, Ray, but he keeps eating Lu Shippy.
Dude, I wish it was Lou Sippy.
Oh, what
I'm
is
just
it? What is
eating
it?
all the junk food. Last night I went to the Brazilian place.
Tucanos or
Yeah,
Rodizio.
yeah. We all have weaknesses, guys, and that's obviously one of mine.
Yeah.
No, sorry, Ray. Sorry, we can't help but
no.
laugh at
Oh
ourselves.
yeah, I love it. Yeah, I'd rather do that. Just chop it up. Yeah. So I mean,
weight's
BMI,
the biggest indicator, huh?
BMI. Yeah, and so I was gonna a little interesting, maybe a little gold nugget or silver nugget, we'll call it, is that most people, as far as statistically speaking, if you could be too heavy or too skinny. That's the first thing that most people don't realize. Like, there's a lot of people, Polynesians particularly, that are on the heavier side with the BMI index here in the United States. So a lot of Polynesians will have an experience where they're getting agents who are turning them away with nothing. And that's a very disappointing thing for someone. If you can just put yourself in their shoes, like, you realize your mortality is real. You realize you factually will not be here forever. And when you have that realization and you come to the table, or you're looking for someone to help you, and they turn you away,
yeah,
it's pretty disheartening. So So that's the BMI is a big thing. So just losing weight is going to be a massive benefit to anyone, but our community for sure. We're on the heavier side, but it's not because we're unhealthy. So I'm always telling people, like, I don't judge. Like, it's not a judgment. It's a fact. We live here in the United States. If we're going to get life insurance, it's important we kind of understand how the game is played, and then I can teach you how to massage some things here and work with the system to, to be able to get something for everyone. I've never turned away anyone. That's one of the things I brag about. 9.5 years. There's some people right now I'm working with that are in the hopper. So it's taking a lot of work, and that's what I do. During my regular time, is I'm doing the research, I'm digging in, I'm having the conversations, so that I don't. I want to keep that records perfect if I can, ideally. So anyway, yeah. So that's a big one for Polynesia. BMI is more important than people realize. Then we get into things like gender, like females live longer than men. So that's why it's cheaper. You take a man who's 40 and a woman who's 40, the woman's going to be cheaper.
Less, yeah,
because she outlives them by like 10 years, statistically.
Wow. It's probably longer than that too. Also, with I think right now, just the Tongans in general. I feel like Tongan males. Dang, I feel like some of them are lucky to get even 62.
Oh man, no joke.
So, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that I realize that, but that's kind of makes me sad sometimes when I think about, because it's a hard job, because the emotional side of things. Like I really, like I said earlier, I really get involved with these families. I called them my families when I'm talking about them in my marketing. I call everyone my families because I'm taking care of them, and I get to know them. I get to know things about them. Maybe their spouse doesn't even know, And so it's an emotional job because you're dealing with death, and it's a hard topic, But yeah, so I think Anyway, maybe I'll pause there for a minute. That's just those are a few little things. There's lots of things that we can definitely cover that will give people a little bit more education. But,
one of the things that I've just in my observation, and I think what I have grown to appreciate in my career are two things. Obviously, we've talked about the passion, right? And you have to have the passion into it. The other thing too is niches and specialties are a real deal, right? Like for example, I'll use an example here. I was on this project, and I'm dealing with a regulator, and this regulator says, an employee of a regulator says, you need to do A, B, and C, right? And I had hired a consultant specialist, not just in the industry, but in that region and with that specific regulator, right? And this is where the light bulb went off for me, like how important, if you can find the right people in the right place with the right relationships and the right knowledge, it's the difference between success and failure. Because here I am sitting on conference calls and the regulator is saying do A, B, and C. But then I look at, phone calls with my consultant. They're like, Tua, trust me, don't do A, B, and C. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. It's like the representative of the regulator said A, B, and C. It's like, for lack of a better word, the person who's representing the regulator doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So I had to sit there and say, okay, I was a project manager at the time, right? And it's like, well, who am I going to listen to? Like, this is a very important question. So I said, you know what? I'm going to trust my specialist, right? This is the reason why I got them. Yep. I don't know much about this very specialized space. So I listened to them and went against what the regulator said. And guess what happened? My application went through flawless. And if I had done what the A, B, and C that they told me, my application probably would have got flagged and I would have been delayed. We would have delayed my project, which would have cost me more money, and then just a domino effect. And when I was listening to you talking about Obviously I feel like you do have a passion for this,
Mm,
and a passion enough to go against some very successful people who told you, right? Like, oh, this
Yeah.
is not going to work. And it's because, like you said, you're entering into a realm that they didn't find success in, but it doesn't mean you couldn't. But what I really want to think, I think for the listeners, which a lot of our listeners and viewers are Polynesian, I
Yeah.
think something unique you bring to the table is, like you said, you have that track record of specializing in our people and the
Yep.
challenges that they have, right? And
Yep.
that story comes to mind of that consultant that I hired. Listening to you is, there's very simple things that if you can avoid the things that would trip over your own feet, you
Hmm.
got to make sure you get those taken out of the way, and then you can
Yep.
focus on the unique things. So I think that's what I kind of got from like the story and what
Yeah.
you're explaining and your track record on what independent, life island life insurance can bring to the table for people to consider.
mm,
I've never purchased life insurance out of my employment, right? And
Yeah.
in fact, I just got the open enrollment
Yep.
email last
It's that
week.
time period. Yep.
Yeah, where they're like, to get your act together. We know you haven't opened your portal to do
mm,
your selections. And,
Right.
I just go in, I click what they provide for free. My employer provides a certain level of life coverage for
Yep.
free. And then I went and selected for an additional multiplier and stuff. But I think it's in some, everyone should consider life insurance if
Oh
it comes
yeah.
for your employer. But how about for people who don't have that through their employer? Like, why should they consider, life insurance? Because I for a while, even when I was visiting the Primerica stuff, maybe because I was younger, I always looked at life insurance as not necessary,
Yeah.
right? It was
Right.
always like, oh, that's for other people. But
Yep.
now I'm like, I still kind of have that feeling, but I'm like, well, you know what? If something happens to me, it would
Yeah.
be really nice if my wife and kids had the dollar amount that they say they're going to give me. I don't know if
Yeah.
that question makes sense, Ray.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always, everything whenever I talk about work policies, I always say the same things to everyone, until it's not true. But I just tell them like, always accept the work policy because, like you said, it's often free
mm,
or deeply discounted. So it'd be foolish not to take it, for sure. So anyone that has a work policy, I pat them on the back and congratulate them, tell them to keep it. But I do have a caveat. I do tell them that that policy belongs to their boss, their employer, so that they can replace them before they're even in the ground. I mean, that's really, there's a part of it that goes to the employee, but the majority of those policies will go to the boss so that they can, pay for the ad and get someone in the seat, a warm body in the seat, to work. So it's just, I still encourage people to just be aware of that. This is what I meant earlier about challenging what people have, the thoughts they have.
mm.
Just give them something else to think about that they may have not really went deeper into to consider. And so, yeah, I just tell them to it's good to get a personal policy that belongs to your family because especially nowadays, people don't work at jobs for very long. They used to when our parents, they'd get the watch or the pen for 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah, 25 years. Yeah.
25 years, yeah. But now it's like
Yeah.
it's a different story. We rotate through jobs pretty quickly, so that policy will
Yes.
end as you
As you
move from one to the
transition.
next. Yeah, and sometimes there won't be another one there to replace it. So if you have that personal one that's locked in while you're young, while you're healthy, you're just putting the odds in your favor for having something that's affordable that you can maintain for the long ride while you're in and out of jobs, for the rest of your life. You have something that's like it's kind of like that
Ah,
little baseline for your family.
I see what you're saying. So you're saying the benefit of pursuing the non-employer one is it goes with you wherever you go.
Wherever you go. Yeah.
Ah,
Working.
I
Yeah.
I see. So if you go from one job to another, it's
Yep.
kind of like the health savings account, right?
There you
That
go.
goes with you wherever you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then
Masi,
those
oh,
without
go
it, I
ahead.
mean, I would just say, just to answer that last part of your question, those that don't have work policies, and I think it goes without saying that the simple question they just got to ask themselves is, if they were to die today, what kind of repercussions are there? Is your family going to struggle just to make next month's bills? If that answer is a solid yes, then
Consider it.
there really is no other alternative that I'm aware of, besides maybe some gold and silver, which I'll get a wink to your audience for that one. They need to
dig
wake
into
up
gold
to
and
that.
silver.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Masi, any questions on insurance?
No, I'm kind of just learning a lot because I don't have life insurance and stuff, but I was just kind of like you two. I've just kind of hear it, and I'm just saying, oh, I'm not there yet. Still 30s, maybe later on, but yeah, no, nothing particular to it.
Okay. I know you mentioned, Ray, you kind of have a couple like Facebook groups and organizations that you kind of dabble in. What are those, and what drives you to do that? I kind of help me understand that. Like, what's the drive or the passion behind that?
Yeah, so I'll just a quick plug for those. I just playoutsidewithme.com. But it's also, you can find it by that same name, playoutsidewithme.com. It's on Facebook. Making outdoor play great again for kids is kind of the tagline. Everyone's using that MAGA thing everywhere they can.
Ride that wave.
Yeah, ride that MAGA wave and whatever. But so that one is just a simple project I put together just because I have kids and they're still young. And I talk story to them all the time, right? And tell them how great it was when the doorbell was just getting spammed. They're just kids at the door, just like,
let's go
play. Let's tell your mom you did your homework and let's go. And so it's just a mission that you guys should keep an eye out on it. I'm, like everything else, I'm going to run it into the ground. I'm going to fly it or burn it. So it's just a project for parents to get on that website. It's an app. It's an app that's on your desktop or your cell phone. Playoutsidewithme.com. So they just go there, create a free account, and then they're able to add their kids that are 17 years or younger. And they can use some different filters in there that allow them to choose an age range. Maybe they have a 12-year-old, then they might want another 11 to 13-year-old girl that might want to play Barbies within 2 miles of their house. So it's very geo-targeted. So the kids don't need a chauffeur or need mom and dad to drive them around, or they could just meet at a park or somewhere nearby. So it's just my passion to help the kids
get
happier.
Out and about.
Yeah. There's a lot of science behind it too. I've read a lot on it. Kids that play outside, it's just an important part of a kid's development and becoming adults. Playing like they're adults.
Yes.
So.
No, and that's the thing. One of my favorite things that I've learned about kids playing outside is risk management. That's how they learn risk management.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you go out and you climb a tree as you're young and you fall off of a tree or something, scrape your knees. You get a healthy reality of hey, certain 100%. Decisions sometimes lead to a negative outcome. But when you're indoors all the time and you're protected and you're padded, when you get yourself into a situation that the risk is high, you have a false sense of bad things don't happen.
Yep.
Right? And so that's kind of like one of the biggest things that I thought is positive about going to the playground, going and getting a little hurt, right? Feeling absolutely. A little pain is because you start to understand that, like, hey, certain decisions can lead to negative outcomes. And so you manage that risk. It's like, is it really worth climbing to the top of the tree? When I was 2 years old, not more than 2 feet up, I slipped and fell and had a small owie that bothered me for 3-4 days. And all of a sudden, your appetite for just going to the top of the tree where it's windy and blowing and falling off, you kind of make a few wiser choices.
Hesitate a little bit, huh?
Yeah, you think about it more.
True.
I think that's definitely an interesting thing to consider is outdoor play. But there's definitely some positives there.
Yeah. So there's that, and then Utah Salt Lake County Dads is another one. It's just I'll I was in a dad's group in Austin, Texas, and it's a shout out to those guys. Leander Cedar Park Dads is what it was. So they're on Facebook, and we got together, and men getting together with men is I realize is
A
super
positive
important.
thing.
Yeah. Just beating each other, beating our chests around each other, even crying on a shoulder, or sharing some loss that we had either in business or in life. And so we'd get together, Tuesday tacos in the mornings, breakfast tacos. In Austin, they're known for that. The
breakfast tacos.
Yeah, and then we do a bowling and gambling night, and just different things we get together. So it's just my attempt to kind of duplicate that experience for some dads out here. We would have scratch each other's backs professionally. There's dads that were barbers, and all the dads would only frequent that barber and vote with their dollars and support that dad, and he would cut their hair and do a fantastic job, or life insurance. So.
No, that's a really interesting concept there, because really at the end of the day, as we get older and hopefully wiser, everything is about relationships, and relationships come from community, right?
Yep.
Like that's something that's important, and actually that's some of the many things that we talk about on the podcast. Is it is tied to our history, but also kind of our culture, is how important that cohesiveness is. And honestly, we talk about it many times, that in many ways is what makes Polynesian culture unique, is that ability to build community to build relationships, and that unity, that ability to be unified, is because we're such a small percentage of the population, right? That is in many ways the superpower, right? That is the superpower, is because we don't have the advantage of critical mass in the sense of just pure volume, hundreds of millions or billions of people. But we punch above our weight because of there's an abundance of raw and natural talent, but also the ability to be a community and to harness resources.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's something that's really important, as we look at, Polynesian history, but especially looking at like the Tu'i Tonga and the old social and political structures that allowed Tonga to survive colonization. It boils down to you're doing the same things at a small scale, but it's the same idea. It's the same concept, right? Of community, of resources, and that establishes the unity that allows an individual and communities to endure challenges. And because there is that support structure and that stability that facilitates that. But that's something that I think is important. And I think sometimes because we're living in a Western world, we're too easy to give that away for either convenience or lack of knowing how important that is. And I think that's something that I've seen in our discussions, and also just from observations. Like we did a video of I think you may know the gentleman. I like the work he does. He seems to do well. He's there in Utah. Last name Kini.
Kini.
Okay. I think he's like a real estate. Yes, he does. I mean, he seems to be very successful, and he does really well. And we were just kind of like, he had shared an idea, and I'm interested to see what your thoughts on it, Ray, and Masi can build on it if you want. Masi, is we don't disagree with what he was saying. We're just trying to say what's another way to look at it. And what he had shared was, he's gone to like family functions where people have given money or resources that they have no business giving money and resources, right?
Because they don't have it. Is that what he's saying?
Because they don't have it, right?
Okay.
And he had shared, like, I have a budget, and that's my giving budget.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So from a practical perspective, I 100% on board.
Yeah.
Right. I'm 100% on board. That makes sense. But I also, just from my perspective and experience growing up, if we were to just concede and follow that,
Mm-hmm.
we could potentially be giving away something that makes us unique,
Okay.
right? And
Okay.
and special. And I think in that episode that we talked about, I used the fact that Tongans are percentage wise have more wards outside of Tonga and states than any other ethnic group. Yet
Oh.
we are the smallest,
Right.
right? Like it doesn't
Okay.
make sense. Like outside
Right.
of English speaking, I
Yep.
think Tongan speaking stakes, and it doesn't have to be Tongan speaking. It's just Tongan stakes, right? Or wards. I think it's like English and then Tongan.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because I think there's like what, maybe one or two Spanish speaking states
Right.
in
Yeah.
California,
Yeah.
right?
Oh.
And then
Okay.
Utah, it feels like every time I turn around, Utah is putting up
Like
another Tongan stake.
5 or
Right?
6 at
Yeah,
Utah,
something crazy.
2 in
Then
California.
there's a couple in California,
Okay.
some in New Zealand,
I didn't know
right?
No,
Yeah.
no, none in New Zealand. It's
None
only in
in
the
New
U.S.
Zealand? Oh yeah, well, the Aotearoa Saints over there need to listen up.
We got some
Listen
work
up
to
a little
do.
bit. Yes.
We got some work to do.
but the principle behind it is the critical identifier for creating a ward is Melchizedek priesthood tithe paying. You can't have, you could have a million people, right?
But if you don't have,
But if they don't have those two things, that the Melchizedek holder
yeah.
is paying tithing, the church is that you won't have a ward,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah.
And it comes
And to
back
have a
to
stake, that's another.
Yes.
I mean,
that's
stake,
another
Another
level. You have to have multiple
they're a lot
wards.
more critical. Yeah, if they're gonna
Yes.
create another Tongan state, they're gonna be a lot more critical than they gotta make sure these are constant, full
Yeah,
tithe
they're
payers.
viable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And to me, I like certain words that you said from the very beginning, playing the game, right? And that it's not like this foreign realm that we can't learn, right?
Yeah.
Like you saw, like when you went in sales, that's a certain world and that's a certain realm that
Mm-hmm.
someone new can come in. Simple things like you said, don't sell trash. That'll save you so much heartache and pain.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah.
It's hard as it is. Selling
Yep.
trash makes it impossible.
Oh
So
my
that's
gosh. Yeah.
fantastic advice, right?
Yeah.
And so that to me, and also like the insurance space, there are certain things you need to know. You don't know what you don't know. Just go and learn what that is. And that to me is just understand that game, understand that process to be successful. But also listening to your story, I think your story is a testament of this. There is a sacrifice that has to be paid to transcend.
Mm-hmm.
And that price many times doesn't make logical sense. Like you sitting, I can't imagine, sitting down across, was it David or what is that? Patrick Bet
David. Yeah.
right? And talking to him on the phone, and he says, "Man, this is something that I don't know if it's going to work," and you're like, "Nope, I'm going to do it."
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to
Yep.
push forward because I believe. To me, that's the same thing as, but you have to be wise. You can't do it all the time. That's
Yeah.
where
Not
I
all the
agree.
time. Yep.
But
That's the
that's what makes it unique in my opinion. And I want to get what your guys' thoughts are. I'm really good at making very long questions.
caveat.
But that's what makes the Tongans unique,
Yeah.
is the ability and willingness to sacrifice to achieve something greater
Oh yeah.
that I don't want to lose, right? Like
No.
one of the things that growing up with or going into college with my wife was, Tua, we can barely pay our bills and yet we're sending money to help on other things,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But anyways, I want to throw that out there, get any thoughts, but just I think that's something that, and once again, what our Kinikini brother is saying, I'm not saying is incorrect. I think that's correct for certain applications, but it's not a universal application otherwise. I don't know, Masi or Ray, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I always love challenging ideas. So The idea. I remember that. I remember thinking that I also disagreed with almost like the something I couldn't quite put a finger on. I think you got closer than I did, as far as losing something by giving that up.
Mhm.
Giving when you don't have much. The widow's mite or whatever. You might.
Exactly. That's actually what came to mind when I watched it was,
Yeah.
oh, there's a lot more power and value to it when it hurts a little. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think anything, like we said in the very beginning, with kids playing or whenever, pain, or you said the deeper the hole, the greater the rise. All these things,
Mhm.
there's all these parallels in what we're talking about. Like, is absolutely true. The more pain that is experienced, and that's why there's so much pain in my past, just with parents and dad leaving. There's just pain. It was the path to like my present day self. Like it's a culmination of
Yeah.
everything, and a versatility and stuff that I can see now that I'm different in a lot of ways, that I might push much further than most people I know, as far as whatever it is, fill in the blank. So yeah. Anyway, I kind of agree with you that it wasn't spot on, and that it's not to be taken as a universal rule, that it's as simple as the numbers, and
Yeah. And
there's
that may not be of his intent,
yeah, it
right?
may not
He
be.
was just
Yeah.
kind of for his context, but I mean, I'm just saying, we're just for conversation. But
Yeah.
Masi,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Oh no, no, you're right though. I mean, it's one of those things that you just have to be when you've done it many times. You have to be understanding of when to do it. But like when there's stuff that, like you said, that's gonna require out of your budget what you used to do, then there's some causes that you need to do more that's out of your budget. That's in especially regarding keeping up relationships, and you finding something that this is worth more than what you typically give, that it's worth. Like, I'm just trying to give an example of, if there is somebody who is making taovala from fao, which is
Hibiscus.
the hibiscus, right? And this is a close family member. They're not asking anything in return, but then they're gonna give it to you. But to show your appreciation and support, you probably will give what more than you, if you know the worth and the value. Because now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of the Tongan treasures that are being presented now, there's a lot of paper, and there's a lot
Hmm.
of things being made, like especially the ngatu, and especially stuff of like tavala, like kind of like the plastics that's being made.
Mm.
So if somebody makes nice, authentic stuff, especially in today, it's gonna probably be worth to give it something to, either for, let's just say, for your, if you're connected to your village, and they're having uh let's just say, like for Tonga just had the 150th
For the
celebration,
Constitution.
and if your village was chosen to participate and to give
Hmm.
something, and your families in Tonga are asking, maybe this is once in a, not in a, this is not an everyday thing, but this is
Right.
150 years of celebrating Tonga's constitution, which is the oldest in the South Pacific.
Mm.
That's pretty nuts. And then if your village gets chosen to go perform and stuff, and then you probably have to give more because your family is part of the village, and usually your village are your extended relatives and families, that you probably have to give more. I think it's something like some causes like that is worth going maybe beyond your budget, especially if your families want to present their best. Because that's one thing I do know. Tongans usually go all in, or they're not going to do it at all.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of, but when you have, and that's another thing I've kind of noticed too, why it's important to always kind of give your best. And it's kind of very difficult just to give your budget thing, because when I do hear the word budget, it's almost like this is it becomes like a norm. You're not giving something, like you're sacrificing something. I don't know. That's what I mean. But I
Yeah.
understand why you do budget when you live and I understand because we all live in the Western world, and you're trying, you're doing business, and it's important. You're gonna have probably many people always come and do, and your family's probably gonna do multiple things, and maybe there's always gonna be a lots of birthdays, and it depends on who's the birthdays or whose families, weddings, and then you can calculate that on how much you give, and it's probably smarter to do a budget thing. But when it's like real causes for like somebody important in your family, or something that you need to do to improve you know the welfare of your family in Tonga or wherever they may be, that you need to probably give more than you typically give. I think
Mm.
it's up to you to give. But to me, a Tongan would always give their best if it's not much or nothing at all. And we tend to look at the negative side, and I think this is more of the younger generations, always looking at the side of, my family gave all of this and we're eating noodles for the week, and I didn't like
Mhm.
that experience. And they always it's always focusing on the negative stuff, and that's probably the challenge of today's generations, because a lot of them are not seeing it much later. And then maybe when they get to later, they don't want, I don't know, they forget about it, maybe don't understand the intricacies of sometimes the value that you get from it, but I don't know. That's kind of the things that's going on in today, but that's a long answer
Yeah.
to that.
No, and I think it's interesting that I use the example. It's like the best way I can describe it, and kind of looking, and I really want to focus this around like Ray's experience here. Ray, do you think you would have pushed through and created what you created if you had a budget before? Let's say island, independent island life insurance.
Yeah.
Let's say before you started that path, if you had a budget, Ray, you come up with a budget and you say, if I go beyond this budget, I'm just gonna quit. Right? Do you
Yeah.
think you would be where you are now?
No, no chance.
No. No
No,
chance, right?
no. How many budgets I kind of internally said, yeah, there's just no chance. It doesn't work like that. At least not for me.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
Mm,
and this is where I think it's important. I think this is kind of like what I'm kind of getting from our conversation here is budgets work well for duplicated processes and proven processes. If you have a process where it's like duplicated and you
Okay.
repeat, not
Yeah.
a lot of unknowns,
Yeah.
budgets work great, right? I come from
Yeah.
project management,
Right.
right?
Yep.
mhm.
When
Yep.
we have a lot of data that says for this activity takes X amount of man hours and this many level of equipment,
Hmm.
we have a budget for that, right? And you're like,
Right.
okay, we can manage that. You tend to manage that. But when you need to transcend or break a barrier into something else, well, I think who was I having this conversation with? Can't remember who it was. It was either a training at work or speaking with a colleague. Oh yeah, it was a. I have a very large team well, it's a small team but a very large project,
Large
the largest
project.
project
Yeah.
in my career, and they said 98% of mega projects never keep their initial budget. They never
90.
keep
Yeah.
98%.
98. Oh,
Yes,
even
because
worse
we're
or
talking
higher.
we're talking about multi-billion-dollar projects, right? First of its
Right.
kind. And
Yeah.
in my organization, we're doing the largest project in the history of the organization. It's never been done before, and I think we're already like 80% above the initial budget,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And so this comes up, and I had to remind my team that budgets are good for trying to manage and keep us within the information that we know. But
Yeah.
remember, this is a first of its kind. We don't know. This is uncharted territory,
Uncharted territory. Yep.
right? And
Yeah.
this is what happens when you go into uncharted territory is it literally means, if I could almost define uncharted territory, it is bust the budget, because budget is tied to known risks, known needs, and data.
Outcomes.
That's
Yeah.
what yes, and the outcome.
Yeah.
But when you want to transcend, there is no budget. And I'll use an example. Your example
Yeah.
is the most
Yeah.
immediate one because of our conversation, right? You
Yeah.
keep pushing and keep pushing you believed in the product, but you needed to find out, how do I apply this product? How do I find the right audience? And then, to transcend into just petering out and dying, because that's peter out and die. What, 90% of businesses die within the first year or two?
Yep. And then the
right?
90% of the next.
Yes.
Yeah.
The next 3 years or whatever. So you've broken through a lot of barriers. And when I hear that, I hear, man, this guy's broken through some budgets, right? To transcend to the next stuff. The guy who embodies this in like the big stage to me is Elon Musk.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Elon Musk made all this money from PayPal, which he sacrificed a lot, right? Sleeping in his office. He lived in their little office before they merged. Then he makes all this money, and then he puts every penny down into Tesla and SpaceX. Mm-hmm. And to the point where he was going to go bankrupt, right?
Yep.
And to me, if you wanted to just maintain a status quo, he would have said, here's $20 million to the side. I will never touch that 20 million. I'm only going to spend the 80 million that I have. We wouldn't have SpaceX right now. We wouldn't have Tesla, right? We wouldn't have, what's the brain chip company?
He has the boring company.
He has the boring, but all
drilling
these things,
on the ground. Yeah, all
exactly.
Of it,
He's on track to be the first trillionaire. They just approved like $1 trillion compensation package for him for the future. But it was because he was willing to say, I am willing to go beyond the budget if needed for the right causes.
Yeah.
And I think that's something, like I said, like I understand what he was saying. And I would say within the context of known data, repeatable processes that have predictable outcomes, I'm on board.
Yeah.
Put a budget, but when it comes to certain things that are transcendent, you can't have a budget. You use it for practical terms because you don't want to just blow through all your money in the beginning.
Yep.
You still use a budget in the sense of, okay, but when it comes to push beyond it, you have to push beyond it in order to achieve something new, something different.
To transcend. Yeah, absolutely.
To transcend. So, I don't know. Anything else on that? If there's anything on that topic that we want to add to it.
Elon Musk, he was there in Austin, so I got to see.
Oh yeah, the Gigafactory.
Yeah, it was cool. It's just walking around and seeing the robots delivering food. I don't know if that was his. I don't know if that was his invention. Maybe that wasn't. But I was able to go to SpaceX and check it out, and down in the southern border up on Mexico. That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. It's amazing. I mean, that guy's crazy. He's done a lot.
It's funny because everything that he's developed, it's all around living on Mars. Because he developed cars that just need sunlight, right? Because the sun still hits Mars. They don't need fossil. They don't have fossil fuels on Mars. They won't be able to transport enough because it's not already there, right? So they got to ship it. So he's got these solars to power all the vehicles. He's got the boring company, which is to go under the surface.
Yeah, they have it here in Vegas. They have it in Vegas. They're drilling all over the place.
So anyway, he's a very interesting man. But I appreciate you bulking me together with him, man. That was a compliment.
Well,
indirectly.
I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to be like overly compared, but I'm a big believer in this. I respect. I've tried a couple times in the entrepreneurship space, have not been successful yet. I have a little more success on the corporate side. So I admire. It's my dream. One day, I hope to find some success in the entrepreneurial space. But
is that for both of you? You both dabbled in entrepreneurship, or is it just you, Tua?
No, just Tua.
Okay.
Yeah, right now with 8 kids, the risk level, it's like now it's like a little bit more of a numbers game. For me, it's like, man, I'm willing. I don't mind eating ramen noodles for a long time, but I'm like, I don't know if a wife and kids are going to be on board with that, So so I gotta wait. I gotta wait a little bit. Either get more.
Tua, you gotta better sell them your entrepreneurship
Yeah, I gotta
idea.
convince them.
That's what you need to do. They haven't been convinced yet, do
Yeah, they haven't been converted. I need to convert them. So I mean, I'm not trying to, blow hot air, Ray, but I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
I admire it because
I appreciate that.
It takes effort and sacrifice, and to me, Elon Musk could have had that same sacrifice, just like you made that sacrifice, and we wouldn't be talking about it just because he could have been the millions of others that didn't.
Oh yeah,
make
There's
it.
Lots
right?
of those.
There's lots of those, and
Yeah.
and that's something that's unique to America that America cannot forget, right?
Yeah.
Elon Musk is not the only guy who put everything on the line. A lot
Yeah.
of people put everything on the line
Yeah.
and came out with nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes
sadly.
America unique. In that way, that's something that's unique. And I feel like Tongans do the same thing, but not necessarily in business,
Mhm.
but in relationship and into the culture.
Yeah.
That's where Tongans are kind of those. If you want to call it, we're going to make up a new term here that didn't exist before,
Okay.
like cultural entrepreneurship or like societal entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I feel like Tongans, that's where they thrive.
Societal entrepreneurship.
Yeah, like something like
Okay.
that, because like Tongans are willing to put everything on the line for
Yeah.
certain relationships, and a lot of it is
Oh yeah.
whether
for
it's
sure.
the family, the culture, or their faith.
the faith church. Yep.
They're willing to do that, and
Oh, yeah.
that's something that's unique, and it's evident through the church and their success there, and also just the churches out throughout here, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a important thing, and I think you got to respect that and recognize that. I went to BYU to play football. There are a lot of great athletes I know from high school and knew at college they'd never make it to the NFL, right?
Yeah,
Because of
right.
injury, because of life, whatever. But that doesn't mean that they didn't pay the price that's required for success. You
Right.
have to
Oh,
pay
good
the
point.
price for success, and then
Yeah.
you always need a little luck.
Yeah.
I
true.
can't tell you how many times, like, you always need a little luck, Steve
True.
Jobs couldn't have built Apple if he didn't happen to grow up right next to Steve Wozniak,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like, you just have to there's a lot of luck along the way.
Oh yeah.
That come in perfect times. I want to shift here and kind of talk about, now that I know you mentioned that you're a former member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Is that correct, or am I thinking of someone else?
No, I mean that's accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, help me. Are you, if you're comfortable with it? I don't know. I'm just bringing it up. I think you
Yeah.
had shared it.
I
Help
did.
us understand that. Walk through that process, and kind of what led you to your decision, and kind of help us understand that journey.
Yeah. I mean, it just, kind of plays into just more my innate, is that the word, where my God-given personality of just being very analytical. And so, yeah, I for me, it was just I always hesitate to share stuff, but I did bring this up. So yeah, so fair game. I did put it in so yeah, I mean, I just hesitate because I respect everyone that I've always known. That's the truth of
Yeah.
it, especially my mom, who, and culturally, like we said, like you were talking about, like Tongans, that's why that's part of
It's
me.
a big part of that.
That's where I get that, like,
Mhm.
I see that the older I get, that's where I got that kind of that gusto, that like that fire, whatever you want to dig in, like give it everything, put your shoulders to the wheel, like give it all,
Yeah.
And so I can see that's where I got it. I think I got it more definitely from my mom, my Tongan side, and my dad, I got to give him credit too for some of it. But yeah, so it was just as far as the church, I've never made like any official announcements or anything, but and I hesitate to like proselyte any ideas from the outside. But
Yeah.
it's just been for me, and it's funny because mine wasn't about, I didn't dig into any history. That wasn't my path. It was more just things that I've always kind of challenged as I was as a young man, a youth, and then a young man, and then an old middle-aged man. Things that I just never was able to wrap my head around, and truly, like fully believe in. But I gave it everything. Like I was Elders Quorum president numerous times. I loved the church and did. But I just reached a point where it was just I couldn't continue to suspend other things that I was unsure of, but because of like I said, because I came back to Utah, and because of my love for all my family members that are still active members, it's kind of a soft, it's a sensitive subject, I guess. But anyway, I don't know.
No, and once again, I don't want to go into anything that you don't want to discuss, but to me, I'm intrigued by that. That's interesting to me because it is a big part of our lives and so forth. Yeah. And I wouldn't say that I think like your traditional LDS person either, right? I've come up with certain perceptions and thoughts about the gospel and the doctrine, and people kind of just look at you differently, right? And it's like, what's going on with this guy, right? Like I have been accused of, you're probably gonna leave the church too, and stuff like that, just from my personal interpretations,
right?
I personally don't see myself doing it, but I've been accused of that,
right,
by multiple people.
Just people you care about.
People I care about, random people too that I don't really care about.
Random too,
It's just discussing things. Because I think what you're sharing is important. I remember having a conversation once with someone that was important to me.
Yeah.
And they were saying they were thinking about leaving the church.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the conversations, and I basically said, if you truly believe that that's the right thing that you should do it. Because the last thing you want to do is to sacrifice your conscience and what you think is right, and to do it. Because see, my perspective is, obviously you're on the other side of the fence, Ray, but my perspective is, if I really believe the church is true, the hard part is not that the church is true. The hard part is, can we stay honest to ourselves? That's the hard part, because I believe as long as you're honest to yourself, my belief is, well, if this is the truth and I believe that, and the gospel is about people being honest to themselves, I have an approach of faith. Eventually, you're gonna come back. Right, but that's just my perspective.
Right.
That's how I
love that.
I remember, my wife was very upset when I said that. Right, because the traditional answer is don't do it. But to me, I'm like, no. If you really feel that that's what your conscience is compelling you to do, that's what you should do. Because in order for you to even accept the gospel or return to the gospel, that's the spirit, quote unquote, that you have to leave by, because that's the only way to come back, in my perspective. So to me, it's really important that you live what you live. And honestly, one of the biggest challenges I had with the gospel growing up was this. I always felt like, how am I going to maintain my individuality? Right? That was something that was important to me.
Yeah, as a young person. Yeah.
Yes, because I always felt like, well, here's Tua, and then here's the commandments. And I always felt like, well, this is me. And if I step over to the commandments, then am I still me? Okay. Or am I something else?
Yeah.
Right. Like that was a natural fear of mine. And so that's something I had to wrestle with and try to figure out, how do you live the gospel but still be you? And far I'm very comfortable with that. And the reason why I say so far is nothing's for sure. You know,
Yeah.
my intent is, it's kind of like life, right? My intent is to be around till I'm 70, on this earth, but I don't control that. My intent is to be a
Right.
member of the church my entire life, but I don't know. I don't know what I don't know,
Yeah.
and I don't know what life challenges are going to bring. But I think I appreciate you be willing to share that, because I mean,
Yeah.
anybody who told me they've never had challenges with the church are either lying to me or they don't really believe in the church. Because how, like we're talking about transcending,
Yep.
you can start with the typical, this is what I believe in the church, but at some point you have to transcend beyond
Oh
the
yeah.
standard perceptions.
Yeah.
And that comes with pain, doubt, suffering. That's why I said it's no different
Yeah.
than starting a business or fighting, a constitutional right or belief
Yep.
that you have. In order to transcend, it seems to be like a pattern of this life. In order to transcend, there's pain, there's suffering, there's
Yep.
loneliness.
Yep. Yep. All the above.
So all of the above. But
Yeah.
anything to? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
go
Just
ahead, Ray.
but it just but I have talked about it with my closest family members. So it's it's like I tell my mom, it's just because I respect her so much, and she raised me like in a sort of in the vein you're talking about, to be honest, in all my dealings. And so, being true to what I'm feeling at the time being, I don't pretend anymore to know what tomorrow brings either. Like there could be a path back, but there might not be. So,
Exactly.
but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that in my present place. And I'm honoring my mom. I try to help her understand that what I'm doing is not, to her, she might view it as like a rebellion from everything I've been taught. But and it might be like but I also tell her that it's just because I respect her too much to just continue to live in conflict with myself. And so, but anyway,
I'm not trying to be talahui to your mom or anything, but it'd be like, hey, mom,
yeah.
Adam and Eve were disobedient, and they still figured it out at the end. It's like, give me some space, mom. Give me some space. I'll figure this out. I'll figure this out.
Yeah.
Masi, any thoughts? Anything?
Yeah,
to
no,
add
just
there?
interested. Just interested in where is your roots from? Like, where is your mom from in Tonga, Ray? And maybe you can speak on maybe what Polynesian culture that kind of impacted you growing up with your
Hmm.
mom. Maybe that's kind of passed down to you that you still maintain or keep, or you've made it important part of the what you've been taught. Maybe through your mom in the Polynesian culture sense. I don't know, just
Yeah.
around those lines, Ray.
Yeah.
So yeah, where's your mom from specifically in Tonga, and maybe some important lessons, maybe unique in the Polynesian context of what you think has impacted you culturally.
Yeah. I mean, my first thought was just my mom. I think it's Hawaii is where
Hmm.
it's come up. I'm not very familiar with either side. My dad was actually adopted, so that's why on that side I'm not. He was adopted by a German family. That's where Keller comes from. It means cellar or attic or
Oh,
basement.
what? Cellar? Oh, you
Yeah,
mean a cellar, like
Yeah.
a wine cellar?
wine cellar.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought you meant like a seller, like a
like
salesman. I was like,
salesman.
what?
Oh, oh, that's why you reacted that way.
Yeah, I was like, what are the odds, man? That happened. That came true. No,
But
anyways, go ahead.
Hawaii, right? Isn't that how you
Yes.
say it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just above Tongatapu. Yeah.
Yep. So I think that's where kind of that's where my mom was born, and her, I think, 11 siblings, and
Wow.
she's the oldest one living now at 78. Lives in Salt Lake with my auntie Lata and Tevita. But yeah, so I mean, there's
What's her
so
maiden
much. Veikite.
Vehequite?
Oh,
Yeah.
Vehikite. Yeah. I've come across
Have
some
you come
Vehikite.
across that name? Yeah.
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 Yeah. Otuano Tua. You know Otuano?
Uh-huh.
He's
Not
married.
by
He's
name.
married.
Is he
Yes.
out here in Utah?
He's a Latu. He's a
He's a
relative of
Latu.
ours.
Okay.
Lola
He's a
is
Latu.
a Vehequite?
Yes, Nola is a Vehikite.
Nola. Yeah, Nola. Yeah, that's my
Oh,
auntie,
so
I
you
guess.
Yes, so that's what I'm
Yes.
saying. That's the Vehikite
Yeah.
family that's kind of known, but that's the closest one to our family too. But I don't know if
Oh, okay.
Oh,
you
that's
know that.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah. So I mean, just I always think of my sweet mom. Just everyone's always saying how she just smiles and just saying hello to everyone every time we'd walk, everyone we pass to this day, even though her mind is a little bit slipping, at the
Mm,
Mm,
stage, but she's still, it's so deeply ingrained in her to
nature.
in her nature, yeah, to just be so
mm,
loving and so make everyone feel seen and feel
mm,
seen and
That's
heard, which is so
awesome.
important. So yeah, I mean, I definitely carry that because it makes my family uncomfortable talking with the clerk, talking with the drive-up person,
mm,
you know. But it's just cool because my kids will see how that kind of kindness comes back because there's always someone like giving you free food through the window, and just
mm,
putting a smiley face on the receipt. I've been blessed with those kind of results, and that probably plays into my sales too. To be honest, that authenticity and that kindness and that even though I can really rip into somebody good, like if I need to kind of uh,
Get a
kind
point
of
across.
yeah, kind of wake them up a little bit, or
mm,
come to Jesus moment is what
mm,
Call it.
I can definitely do that. But it always genuinely is within love. So I would say that
mm,
that characteristic I can attribute to my mom for sure, and that
Mhm.
and
mm,
that culture, and my grandma and my aunties, and I could just see it. It's like a thread that just runs through this
mm,
my whole tongue inside. So that's pretty cool.
mm. I
Mm.
think that's what makes that's kind of the common thread I've kind of picked up of, especially with non-Polynesians always wanting to hang around with other
Yep.
Polynesians because
Yep.
they're just super chill. They're super
Yeah.
nice. They can just relax. Some people just they're
Don't
relaxed.
know
They
how to
can't really
relax. Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
how to
They
really
don't.
relax.
Yeah. So
Just
true.
chill. Yeah, just can't chill
Yeah.
and I feel like that's what gravitates people to hang around with Polynesians because we like to have a good time. We're pretty cool if as long as we're treated fairly and nice, we're gonna give you everything and treat you
Yep.
just even better. Because I
Yep.
think our hospitality is it's hard for anyone to come when you get to a Polynesian family circle or to a Polynesian individual, the hospitality and how they treat you is you can't
Top
repeat it.
notch. It's
Yeah,
everything.
top notch.
Whatever
Yeah.
they got, if you can transcend and get into that circle, you'll be treated like a king. Now
Mm.
their business customer service may not be the greatest,
Yeah.
but
It's
once you get past that
there's
into that relationship, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll get there. I think our people will get there once they understand that concept because customer service is just like everything else. It's a I don't want to say a game, but it's a strategy, right?
Hmm.
It's a tactic that'll work. But yeah,
Well,
that's
that's
kind of cool.
yeah, tour, and that's the thing. Maybe Polynesians taking a little bit slower with the whole concept of maybe not like a maybe because I always go back to the thought of Ulukalala. Remember in Mariner when he first discovered the coin, the
Hmm.
reason of money, and he said that the because maybe it's a Western concept that many Polynesians are still relatively new. Trying maybe that's why the Asians do better with it because they had some form of that practice in
Hmm.
their ancient days. But Polynesians has always been your crops, our finances were the
Currency, huh?
our currency was our crops, and
And it
Yeah.
has an
you
expiration
couldn't
date
you
on it.
couldn't and
Yeah.
it had an
Yeah.
expiration date. So even if you wanted to hold on to it for how many long, it's gonna rot and no one
Yeah. And
benefits. So
spoil. Yeah.
it's better that you have it and you share it and you invest in the relationships of others so that they can invest back into you when they
Mm.
have a good crops for that year. And it's what Ulukalala said now, and maybe this is part of why Tonga is the only independent nation in Polynesia that survived because that concept Ulukalala had, because it still runs in his bloodline that comes today, he understand the concept of the Palangi's mentality of money. Because he said, now I understand why Palangis would think and do a certain thing a different way because they have the ability to act selfish because they can conserve. And then once he knew that concept of the whole money for Mariner, that's when
Mm.
he was able to navigate. Because that's an interesting world, and I feel like maybe that's why Polynesians, particularly Tongans, have a tough time with business because maybe we're still new in the game. We're still catching up with the money of that. I don't know. I'm just
No,
speaking loud. I'm
it's
just speaking out
interesting.
loud about that.
It's interesting that you say that because I just watched a video a couple weeks ago, and it was a debate, and this guy, and he literally says that brains function differently based on their environment and their practice, right? You know, that nature versus nurture. And
Mm-hmm.
he said the European, even how you see the world is impacted by, in many ways, by your environment. Like he talked about, I guess, Europeans, because they grew up in when they spent when England became the first industrialized nation, and
Mm-hmm.
buildings got taller into cities. Their eyes got to the point where they couldn't necessarily see around corners because all the buildings are square, right? So you go through so many generations of living in the inner city, your brain and your mind just thinks in what they see every day. They can't really see around corners very well, but people who grew up in the open space, their vision and their mindsets are very different. And so they're able to see, quote unquote, around corners, right? And the way they perceive the world. And what I'm getting to is that's what we were kind of talking about earlier about budget versus
Mm,
when you need to give it all,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's actually, I'm not saying don't budget. What I'm saying is understand the budget and its place,
mm.
and don't sacrifice the ability to give your all and more. Like
Yeah.
you can
More.
actually have both. Remember, Masi, you like to use the idea of the
Yeah,
hat, right?
yeah,
In the
yeah.
right scenario, put the budget hat on, right? But also recognize that it doesn't have to be a budget every time. That in the right scenarios where it makes sense,
Yeah.
we're putting everything we got into this,
Mm,
right? And so I think that's a very valid point, and that's why relationships are so critical in the Polynesian and the Tongan thing. It's because it's driven by economics, right? But it was also driven by the politics and the government structure. It was
mm,
family. Like we
mm,
take the perception, Ray, that the Polynesian Empire was throughout Polynesia, and all it was an extended network of families,
Mm-hmm.
right? That all gave tribute that came back to Tonga because the Tu'i Tonga lived there, and that's how this whole network existed. And it was all based off of relationships, long
Yeah.
distance. And obviously, there's certain technological advantages Tonga had. From all indications, we kind of get a little heat. Ha, Masi,
Yeah.
ha. We get a
mm,
little heat from all kinds of people for our
Yeah.
beliefs, but
mm,
you know,
About what point?
well, about our perceptions, like, oh, we're totally biased that, oh, it's Tonga. And I'm like, well, there's also evidence. I don't think there is
Right.
some bias. Everybody has bias, but
Yeah.
we also say there's a
Unavoidable.
lot of evidence for it too,
mm,
and
Right.
so we get some heat for that and other things. But I think that's a great point, Masi, that it's something that's built into our people. And like you're saying, Ray, you see it in yourself, right? You
Oh
look at
yeah.
your mom, you
Yeah.
look in your aunt, and you say, hey, I see a similar thread in the
Yep.
tapestry that I have, and and I'm assuming that's something you want your children to
Oh yeah.
tap into and flow in their life. Have
Yep.
you ever considered going to Tonga, Ray?
Oh yeah. Yeah. All the time. Yeah. Well, it's definitely on the list, the bucket list.
Yeah.
But hopefully sooner than later. I don't want to wait. I would love to take my mom. That's while her
mm.
memory is still semi intact. I think that'd be cool for her to show me
I
around.
think that would be fantastic,
But
man.
I think she won't recognize it from what the other Tongans are telling us. It looks
And
very
there's
different.
some truth to that. Like, you'll be surprised because remember Grandma Piwela Masi, we would be on the North Shore, and
Yeah.
Grandma Piwela would be like, hey, look at New Toa. It's a village
Mm-hmm.
in Tonga, and she would think she
Yeah.
was in New Toa because on the North Shore, you drive on Cam Highway, it's right by the beach. So
Mm.
my grandma would be
So,
like, everybody thought New Toa was going to be this little town. Look at it
Mm.
now. It's huge. And
it's a
we're just
big.
sitting there like smiling. It's like, yes, Grandma. You're in New Toa, but the rest of us are here on the North Shore. But I think that is great. Actually, one of the things that we really promote here is we really wish the Tongan government
Hmm.
wouldn't spend so much money in flying to random Europeans in Europe to advertise to come to Tonga. I really believe this, that if the Tongan government spent money to come to Utah
Yeah.
and advertise going to
In Utah.
Tonga
Yeah.
Do
and
their
really,
skirt like yes, their
yeah,
tourism promotion because they do that in Dubai. They do it like in China and
From
stuff. But like,
Tonga, in
yeah,
Dubai and
from
yeah,
China.
Tonga.
Really?
they go
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Those are big business kind of places.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but to me, it's kind of like, I don't know. Let me get your thoughts on that, Ray. Since you're in, you're a entrepreneur and in that space, it's like I feel that would be like you taking your very tailored, unique skill sets and knowledge in the Polynesians
Yeah.
and trying to go and compete with the typical person that's non-Polynesian, random. You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
market that you don't have that you haven't developed the very personalized and strategic skill set to deliver. It's not that you couldn't. I'm sure
Yeah.
if a Asian person came to you and said, Ray, I want health insurance, I'm sure you could deliver,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
don't know if you could deliver in the same detailed in the weeds that you could for the Polynesian community. I feel like that's what the Tongan government is doing, going to Dubai, going to Beijing. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's a huge market, but your hit rate is going to be so low. I was like,
Small. Yeah.
yes. And if you are successful, it's going to be a one time interaction at best.
Yeah.
Where I'm feeling like if the Tongan government focused on Tongans abroad and in the hot spots where
Utah. Yeah.
people
Right.
like you are interested in going to Tonga and want to go and want to take your kids maybe
And have
and
history
build
there.
those
Yeah.
relationships. I was like, that may lead to multiple visits, not just you but your kids if they have go meet a bunch of cousins or whatever
Yeah.
in
Or move
Tonga and
back
they
and
say
live
I
there.
want to
Yeah.
go back and visit. I don't know, that's kind of like some of the things we talk about here is like, man, I feel like the Tongan government would get way more bang for their buck if they went to Salt Lake, Orem, like Euless, Texas, right? Go
Yeah.
to the
Ulysses got a
Bay
lot of
Area,
polys. Yeah. The Bay
go
Area.
to
Yep.
all
Yeah,
these areas.
Go
I
to
don't know.
yeah,
What are your
Alaska.
yeah.
thoughts? What are your thoughts on that, Ray?
I mean, yeah, I guess I'm not sure that I have a lot of thoughts on as far as Tonga. I mean, I don't know. I imagine Tonga is probably filled with a lot of Indian businesses, huh? Am I right about that? A lot of
Chinese.
Chinese. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, the one thing I think about with the Paul, like we were just talking, like Fale was just talking about the currency. Like I think this concept of Western money, and that was something I mentioned on my thing too about gold and silver, is something I'm really passionate about. But this concept of Western money, I think it might make more sense to do what they're doing, just because, like with life insurance, for example, I'm trying to make a dent in the financial outcomes of these Polynesian families,
Mm.
and it really is like unfortunately, sadly, I'm making a dent. There's money coming into these families' pockets more than is needed for a funeral, but but money is kind of still a newer concept. I see that hands-on, firsthand.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So
Absolutely.
like money, Western money, like,
Yeah.
not the currency of the islands, which is relationships and food, right? At least that's what it
100%.
seems.
No,
So, I mean,
100%.
yeah. So I think as far as Western money, I think economically and I consider myself kind of an armchair economist. That's a little side thing I do. I think it does make sense to what they're already doing. But I think they should throw a bone our way too, though. I think they can definitely. Utah would be an easy target
Wouldn't
if I were to
hurt.
pick one.
Wouldn't hurt. So you're
No,
saying it wouldn't hurt
no.
to give it a shot?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh. Well, kind of going along that story, I think I saved it. I asked one of our viewers. I read it on his TikTok account. Actually, anything else before I pull this? Anything else, Ray, that you kind of have that you want to dive into in specific?
Yeah, I
Anything
mean,
that comes to mind?
just maybe a couple little nuggets that I always want people to be able to takeaways, right? We call them in salesmanship. There's takeaways, the things you want people to take away from the conversation. And so you kind of want to put the emphasis on, right? So, I mean, while you're looking that up, just a couple of them we've already kind of touched on, but just with the juries, with the legal system, it's so important that people understand in the United States, especially, I think you guys know this, that the highest ethnicity in the prison system is definitely minorities,
Yes.
and that's just a fact. It's not race, it's not Republican, it's not Democrat. This is just a fact. That there's a lot more Polynesian, Black, Mexican,
especially the Black,
especially the Black community. Yeah, so it's important to understand a very simple principle that was born from the founding fathers in the Constitution, which is the jury. The jury is a jury member has more power in that instance than the president of the United States of America. They have, and with my jurors, they understood, at least the end result demonstrates to me. I didn't get to speak to them except for one of them who chastised me in the parking lot. But but the jurors understood the principle that it only takes one person to say that Ray was not guilty, and then, or anyone, whoever's sitting in the hot seat. That's how much power that a juror has. So people, a lot of times in the United States, I think we're adopting it too, is that when we get that jury duty call, we want to just toss in the trash or show up and do everything in our power to get dismissed, so we don't have to be part of the jury. We can go back to work. Or
I'm guilty of that, absolutely.
Yeah. So if we really understood the importance of that juror, that you have the power of a king, you have that one person power that you can stop the whole system and send a message in our legal system that if one person thinks that I'm innocent, that this guy's not going to cook, he's not going to roast, he's not going to hang, whatever it is, So that's one thing I would just encourage everyone to just next time they get that jury duty call, someone's going to be sitting in that room like myself,
make a difference.
Who truly believes they're innocent and trusted in the system to go to the legal system, and that his peers, those jurors, were going to
stand up.
Even if just one of them stands up. So that's a big nugget for people.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's actually really important. And I've, I think that is important, because I think my natural reaction is what you just warned against there, Ray. It's just like, man, I got to go to work. I got to go do this with the kids and stuff. So the knee-jerk reaction is to not take that civil responsibility seriously.
Yeah.
Masi, any thoughts on that?
No, it's a good knowledge coming from Ray, just regarding the importance of that.
Yeah.
I haven't been asked yet to be a juror, but if that opportunity does come up, I'll think of what your advice, Ray. So
nice. I'm glad.
I was just thinking, because I'm just thinking, maybe it's like 50-50. Depends on what I'm doing for the week or anything, but
your plans,
it is,
right?
yes. If it isn't, like I always say, if you make something, if anyone thinks something's important, they're gonna make time for it.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's true.
Oh, I think it's too many pages. I'll just give a summary.
What is it you're looking up again?
Well, it's I'll just share it here real quick.
Yeah.
We'll look at it, but I'll give the summary to the team here. These are pages from, I don't know who's the guy. It's not Shirley Baker, but some other guy that Tupou the First and some of the some of the
King's
first
Kava Party.
Yeah, the King's Kava Party, and I don't know what the book is. But basically, the short story is our ancestors did not understand how to manage the Palangi man's currency, right? And so the Tongan government, this is Tupou the First in his old age. The Tongan government is already heading into financial challenges.
You mean present day or back then?
Back then, this is
back
like
then.
late 1800s, early 1900s.
This is probably at the time that, especially when he passed away, that because of the debt and some other things, that it could have been colonized, given the reasons why to British to colonize Tonga.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And so what happens is they're trying to bring in a foreigner who understands. This kind of goes back to what you said, Ray. You don't know what you don't know, and your best got you to this spot, but
Yep.
you're gonna need something else, right?
Yeah. Out
And so
external. Yep. External help.
yes, and so
Yeah.
the story, this thing is they bring in this Palangi guy, and they're debating because the king at this time, though he had developed multiple relationships that were critical
Hmm.
to helping Tonga survive, like Shirley Baker and some of these other guys to write the Constitution, and even the Western religion. But then it becomes very clear to Tupou the First relatively quickly that he has to, now that he set up the government and set up all this other stuff, he has to address now the religion is an area that he has to manage and get under control, right?
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, it's going to lead to colonization as well, and other
Colonization.
things.
Yeah.
Like for example, a lot of people didn't know this, and I was one of those who didn't know this. It was the Tongan government that funded Christianity throughout the Pacific.
The Pacific
Huh.
Mission. Yeah.
Really?
Yes,
Huh.
because
Funded it.
like they were giving a certain percentage. The Tongans were like doing a tithe or whatever you want to
Right.
call it, giving it to the church and then sending it to Australia, where the London Missionary Society was then
Were
taking
paid
that money and paying for the missions throughout the Pacific.
Oh wow.
And so what happened was, so Tupou the First goes, "Hey man, guys, can you guys scale that back a bit? You know, this is kind of getting, this is getting a little bit heavy." And they said no, they want to scale it back. And so what Tupou the First did is they create the Church of Tonga, the Free Wesleyan Church of Tonga.
Free Wesleyan. Yeah.
And so they established that so that the tithes would stay in Tonga, and so that Tonga could control that, right? Because they were seeing these resources go out.
Outside.
Anyways,
Yep.
yes. So it's kind of funny to see the dynamics of, you don't just survive colonization just by a government taking you over, but then you have to manage the religion, you have to manage the economics. Like these are all hurdles that you have to manage to make sure you don't get colonized. Right. And so we're learning this as we do this podcast. That's one of the reasons why we love it, is we're actually learning a ton.
Yeah, I
through
bet.
this process.
I bet.
But coming back to this story, and then we'll close it out. We're coming up on the second hour here. Is they're bringing in this Palangi guy because the king and all the nobles recognize they need help. Like this is not something that they can just manage on their own.
Yeah.
Right. And they need to get the fiscal house in order because it's becoming a real risk that the government will collapse. And when the government collapses, then you get colonized. Right. And then you're subject to someone else.
Else. Exactly.
Yes. So it was just kind of an interesting story. I was hoping it'd just be a couple paragraphs what I remember, but it's like 6 pages.
Several pages.
Yes. And so I think that's something as I'll share my thoughts, closing thoughts, Masi, and then Ray, you can close us out. But to me, number one, thank you, Ray, for reaching out. Right?
Yeah, you're welcome.
Conversations don't start until people reach out. We're
Yep.
grateful that you thought, you were willing and thought we were someone that you would be willing to share your story and your thoughts and your experience. We greatly appreciate that. And if I were to share what I feel a thread or pattern that I've seen in our discussion is to do things that are transcendent, to do things that are different, and to grow in a space that we're not quote unquote comfortable in. It takes sacrifice. And sometimes that sacrifice is not just time and effort, but it's internal reflection to say, I need help, and to go find that help.
Amen.
And to be wise with that help. That doesn't mean you just concede your decision making and your commitment just because the help told you something. Right? Like you don't outsource the decision making and the passion.
Yep.
You ask for the help, you try to absorb and take whatever is good, and you still be in the driver's seat. I think that's something that's really important, and I also think it's really important that you do what you feel is right. regardless of the consequence, regardless of the pushback, regardless of what others may think. At the end of the day, you're in your mind, not everyone else's mind, and you have your heart that you have to deal with, and
Yep.
that's what you have to be comfortable with. And that's something that I think a lot of us can learn from, and really appreciate that conversation. Ray, Masi.
Yeah. Good
Yep.
conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. No. Just to add on, Ray, what Tua's comments. Really appreciating getting to know you a little bit more. Thank you for reaching out. It's good to have different kinds of people to share their stories because I feel like it could really be relatable to someone that
Hmm.
may be watching. And the big part that I taken from your story, Ray, and I too touched on it a little bit, which is when you know something, and it's an encouragement to me and also it's a good thing for all of Polynesia and anyone that views it. If you think something is right, you do it, and you felt like you needed to take this all the way to the juror. It was that some suffering that you had to go through, kind of like what
Hmm.
you shared, but you know it was something that is right, and you do what is right. Because at the end of the day, I like to keep a perspective that we're only here temporary, and doing what's right makes a big deal when we are done with this life in judgment day because that's when it counts. That's what that's
Mhm.
just kind of
Yeah.
my personal
Yeah.
there's personal thoughts there. And whether you are a religious person or if you're not so religious, but doing what's right takes a lot of courage. And I think that's what, especially in our world today where there's a lot of gray area, there's a lot of manipulation, there's a lot of things that are being perceived that is good, but is actually not good. But being able to act on the on your conscience that what is right, that you need to stay hold and fight the good fight. That's what I took from your story, Ray, and it's a good
Nice.
encouragement for myself personally, and also for any of our Polynesians who mostly view, but of course anybody. It's a good attribute that you can take and lean on. And at the same time, doesn't when you do things that is right, it doesn't mean that you're not gonna go through some suffering or some,
Oh. Yep.
there's no risk involved because there's always that involved. But it's almost like and it's a very spiritual thing in my thing because it helps when you have some good people around you that kind of have the same goal and that helps. But at the end of the day, it's still very difficult to act on that because you're the only one that's most likely gonna feel it. Like what you said when you with your wife, kids, your
Hmm.
mother,
Yep.
and you came. Thank goodness you came on the good end. But there's probably some people who did that and are still trying to get back and just encourage them. Just hey, keep going because you did what was right. Just keep fighting. You'll get there. Because there's always good things that come to everyone's lives if you just stay patient and just keep fighting the good fight. But that's just
Yep.
my thoughts there, Ray Malo.
Nice.
Malo.
Yeah. Thanks, guy. Thanks, Tua and Fale, for accepting and letting me invite myself onto your show. You guys are awesome. I, I appreciate the conversation.
Hey, no problem.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. As always, we always leave with our viewers, stay curious, be bold, and don't be afraid to ask the hard questions.
Yes, sir.
Sweet.
Amen.
Till next time.
Next
Mahalo.
time, Malo.
Yeah.